The world just learned that a burger can start a war. Not with missiles, not with armies, but with tariffs, pride, and billions of consumers watching. China and India, two of the fastest growing powers on earth, have announced plans to hit U.S. fast food with taxes as high as 300%. And standing in the middle of this storm is the most unlikely battlefield, McDonald's. For decades, the Golden Arches weren't just a brand. They were an American flag on every street corner, a symbol of influence, convenience, and cultural reach stretching from Shanghai to Mumbai. But today, that symbol is being attacked. Every patty, every fry, every Happy Meal could soon carry a political price tag. This is no longer a trade dispute. It's a test of soft power. It's a battle over identity. It's a question every American has to face. If even McDonald's can be shaken, what does that mean for the culture, the economy, and the influence we've long taken for granted? The fallout hasn't even begun. And already, Wall Street, Washington, and every fast food consumer from Beijing to Delhi are bracing for the shock. And the real story, it isn't just about burgers. It's about the fragile grip America has on the world and whether it can hold it. The moment the tariffs hit, the shock waves spread across continents. McDonald's isn't just a fast food chain. It's a $200 billion icon, a cultural ambassador, and a major employer. Suddenly, its future in Asia is uncertain. Big Mac prices in Beijing triple overnight. Economic dispute, but as a test of sovereignty, drawing parallels to Cold War battles where symbols mattered as much as missiles. For supporters, it was vintage Trump, defiant, patriotic, uncompromising. Markets, however, told a different story. The Dow Jones tumbled nearly 500 points in a single day, wiping billions from retirement funds. Soybean farmers and auto manufacturers feared the cycle of retaliation would leave them stranded, yet again caught in the crossfire of a global chess game. And then came the larger question. Is defending a burger chain worth destabilizing trillion-dollar trade flows? McDonald's had become a proxy, a stand-in for a much deeper struggle, one that tested America's economic power, cultural influence, and political resolve. Washington had drawn its line in the sand, but the world was about to find out just how far Trump was willing to go. Just as Washington braced for China's strike, India entered the stage, adding a new twist to the unfolding drama. Leaks from India's Ministry of Commerce suggested that New Delhi might follow Beijing's lead and target McDonald's directly. This was no accident. For years, India's policymakers have voiced frustration at the dominance of American fast food chains in their cities. In Mumbai alone, McDonald's operates over 80 outlets, far outpacing local competitors who struggle with supply chains and marketing power. Under pressure to promote domestic champions and assert cultural independence, India was preparing to draw its own red line. Reports indicated potential restrictions on imports tied to McDonald's, beef substitutes, dairy inputs, packaging materials worth hundreds of millions annually. The move was framed as a patriotic necessity. Why should 1.44 billion Indians eat under an American logo when local brands like Haldiram's or Burger Singh could take center stage? But beneath the surface, the stakes were geopolitical. By aligning with China's 300% tariff shock, India sent a signal that transcended trade. Two historic rivals, often competitors in Asia, were now coordinating pressure on Washington, if only indirectly. Analysts called it a strategic experiment, a brief but powerful alignment to curb American cultural dominance. The social impact was immediate. Middle-class families in Delhi faced rising prices and shrinking options. Local fast food startups seized the moment, framing their products as patriotic alternatives. Burger Singh launched spicy paneer burgers marketed as a cultural answer to the American Big Mac. Every meal became a choice, a statement by Indian, support Indian, reject foreign influence. The momentum was not forced. It resonated with a generation eager to define its own cultural identity. For governments in Beijing and New Delhi, the campaign provided legitimacy to policy moves that might otherwise have been controversial. Tariffs became more than economic instruments. They became symbols of sovereignty, pride, and the shifting balance of influence in Asia. As the world watched, it became clear if India fully aligned with China in this symbolic battle, the question would no longer be about burgers. It would be about the rise of a new axis of power, capable of rewriting the rules of global trade and cultural influence. The ripple from Beijing and New Delhi didn't stop in Asia. Whispers began emerging from Brazil's Ministry of Agriculture, hinting at restrictions on U.S. fast food imports following the Chinese playbook. In Moscow, state media openly celebrated the disruption of America's burger empire, framing it as proof that Western consumer culture was losing its grip. In Pretoria, South African lawmakers discussed food sovereignty, a term that could soon translate into bans, taxes, or both. This was no longer just about McDonald's. Together, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa represent more than 40% of the world's population and nearly a third of global GDP. Even a loosely coordinated push could turn a corporate headache into a systemic shock for one of America's most recognizable cultural exports. Europe watched nervously. Brussels avoided taking sides publicly, but behind closed doors, officials admitted the risk was real. McDonald's outlets in France and Germany rely on transatlantic supply chains, U.S. corn, Canadian beef, Italian packaging equipment. A disruption in Asia could cascade across Europe, affecting farmers, truckers, and manufacturers alike. Yet the EU itself was divided. Paris and Berlin signaled discomfort with Washington's hardline retaliation strategy, worried about inflation, supply disruptions, and political fallout from blindly following Trump. Southern European nations more dependent on U.S. grain and processed goods advocated caution. Brussels' silence wasn't neutrality. It was indecision, a fragile balance masking a potential rift that could widen as the crisis dragged on. If BRICS continued forward while Europe drifted from Washington, McDonald's wouldn't just face declining revenue. It could face a legitimacy crisis. When burgers become symbols, the question is no longer whether McDonald's survives. It's whether America's cultural dominance itself can hold. The shock waves hit the American heartland immediately. McDonald's isn't just a brand. It's one of the largest buyers of U.S. agricultural goods. Beef from Nebraska, potatoes from Idaho, dairy from Wisconsin. Millions of contracts suddenly looked like they could vanish overnight. Farmers who endured trade wars with China in 2018 saw history repeating itself. The American Farm Bureau warned that losing access to China and India could slash farm incomes by double digits. Cattle ranchers faced oversupply, while potato growers braced for mountains of unsold crops. One farm leader put it bluntly, "When McDonald's sneezes, we all catch pneumonia." Suppliers and manufacturers felt the pressure too. Packaging firms in Ohio, logistics companies in Illinois, dairy processors in Minnesota, all depended heavily on McDonald's global network. If Asian markets dried up, factories would lose volume, workers would lose shifts, and entire communities could lose tax revenue. What seemed like a corporate dispute overseas was now a domestic crisis affecting livelihoods across the country. Political pressure mounted. McDonald's executives reportedly sent private warnings to the White House, projecting tens of billions in lost market value that could ricochet across Wall Street, hitting pension funds, ETFs, and small investors. Analysts at J.P. Morgan and Goldman Sachs flagged McDonald's stock as high risk. This was no longer just about burgers. It was a potential financial contagion. Lawmakers from farm states pressed Trump to act, demanding a solution. Yet every choice carried risk. Support McDonald's and face criticism for bailing out a multinational. Refuse and risk a rural revolt that could flip key states in the next election. The line between foreign policy, domestic economics, and political survival blurred. And for Washington, the stakes had never been higher. The tariffs were just the beginning. The real battle moved online and onto screens where perception became as powerful as policy. In Beijing, state television rolled out nightly segments portraying McDonald's as a symbol of Western cultural invasion. Anchors framed every burger as proof of American arrogance, every Happy Meal as a subtle erosion of Chinese identity. Millions of viewers were watching, and the message was clear. Eating under the Golden Arches was no longer harmless. It was a statement. Whether you realized it or not, social media amplified the effect. Hashtags calling for boycotts surged across Weibo and Douyin, accumulating billions of views. Viral videos showed young consumers dumping fries into the trash. While influencers praised Chinese alternatives with patriotic slogans, it wasn't forced propaganda. It tapped into a deeper current of national pride, a belief that choosing American brands was tantamount to submitting to foreign influence. In India, the narrative took a slightly different form. Entrepreneurs and local fast food startups seized the moment framing their offerings as the patriotic alternative. Burger Singh launched spicy paneer burgers marketed as a cultural response to the Big Mac. Ads highlighted by Indian support Indian reject U.S. influence. Suddenly, every meal became a political act. Citizens weren't just consuming food, they were choosing identity. Governments benefited from the movement. Beijing's 300% tariff plan gained domestic legitimacy because it aligned with a social wave of resistance. In New Delhi, local enthusiasm provided political cover for restrictions that might otherwise have been controversial. Tariffs and boycotts weren't merely economic tools. They were instruments of soft power wielded to project national pride and shape cultural narratives. The consequences were immediate and far-reaching. Every consumer who walked past a McDonald's outlet in Shanghai or Mumbai represented a lost sale, a dent in revenue, and a crack in Wall Street confidence. What began as an economic measure had transformed into a cultural frontline where memes, hashtags, and social sentiment determined the fate of a global icon. As burgers became symbols, the stakes went beyond McDonald's. This was a test of America's ability to project influence through its brands, and the lesson was stark. In a world of viral campaigns and nationalist fervor, even the most entrenched symbols of soft power could be challenged, redefined, or rejected entirely. The story isn't just about burgers. It's about power, influence, and the intricate web that connects global economics with national identity. McDonald's, valued at nearly $200 billion, has become more than a company. It is a proxy for American soft power. When Beijing and New Delhi turn their backs, the economic consequences ripple far beyond a single brand. Wall Street estimates suggest that Asia accounts for over a third of McDonald's growth revenue. A coordinated pushback could wipe billions from its valuation overnight, shaking confidence across global markets. But the stakes are equally symbolic. For decades, McDonald's served as an unspoken ambassador of the American way of life. Its golden arches were a familiar landmark in every city, a cultural flag planted on foreign soil. Now those arches are under siege, challenged not just by tariffs, but by the collective will of populations asserting cultural independence. Every boycotted burger, every viral campaign chips away at the aura of American dominance. The economic and symbolic collide. Farmers, suppliers, and logistics companies in the U.S. face potential losses in the billions. But the cultural message is even clearer. Symbols of one nation can no longer automatically command loyalty abroad. The intersection of trade, media, and identity has created a new battlefield. Corporate decisions are no longer simply financial. They are geopolitical acts. And every sale or boycott carries a message about allegiance, pride, and influence. The broader implications are staggering. If McDonald's can be shaken, what happens to other American brands? Nike, Starbucks, Hollywood films, tech giants whose reach has long projected U.S. culture worldwide. If soft power can be taxed, restricted, and reframed as foreign interference, Washington faces a deeper strategic question. How does America maintain global influence in a world where symbols themselves can be weaponized? And the timing is critical. With a fragile global economy, rising multipolarity, and the emergence of new consumer powerhouses, the symbolic defeat of McDonald's in Asia could embolden other nations to challenge U.S. cultural and economic dominance. This isn't hypothetical. It's a preview of a world where logos, media, and consumer habits are battlegrounds as real as trade flows or military alliances. At its core, this conflict forces a reckoning. Economics measures money. Lost symbols measure influence lost. And together they reveal that the war over burgers is in reality a war over global perception, power, and the very idea of American supremacy in the 21st century. To understand the stakes, we need to look at history. Trade disputes and economic retaliation are nothing new, but rarely has a cultural symbol been at the center of a global standoff. During the Cold War, symbols mattered. Flags, propaganda, and ideology were instruments of influence. Today, those symbols have evolved. Logos, brands, and cultural exports carry soft power that can shape public perception, political alignment, and consumer loyalty across borders. McDonald's is the modern flagpole. Its presence in Shanghai, Mumbai, or Sao Paulo isn't just commerce. It is a statement of American values, efficiency, and global reach. When Beijing and New Delhi apply tariffs and mobilize public sentiment, They are testing whether America's influence can survive in an era of multipolarity. It is a new kind of contest where identity, culture, and economics converge. Looking forward, the implications are profound. If these pressures succeed, we may see a cascade of nations asserting cultural sovereignty through economic tools. The concept of soft power could be redefined, no longer assumed, no longer protected, and no longer immune from the strategic ambitions of rising powers. The battlefield will extend beyond fast food, Hollywood, fashion, technology, and sports may all face similar pressures. The era of unquestioned American cultural dominance may be ending, and the choices made today will echo for decades. When I step back and look at this, what stands out is not the price of a Big Mac, but the fragility of influence. McDonald's has become more than a burger chain. It has become a measuring stick for global power, a test of sovereignty, and a symbol of how soft power can be challenged in the modern world. The question for America is clear. Can Washington defend its icons, its culture, and its global reach without destabilizing the very economy it seeks to protect? And for the rest of the world, the lesson is equally stark. Identity, pride, and perception are as potent as trade, money, or diplomacy. This is the front line of a new kind of war where cultural symbols, public sentiment, and global markets collide. McDonald's may survive, it may adapt, but it will never again be just about food. If you found this analysis valuable, take a moment to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Share this video with others who follow global affairs because understanding these symbolic battles is not just informative. It's essential for anyone who wants to grasp the shape of the world in 2025 and beyond. Comment below with your thoughts. Do you think America can defend its soft power, or are the golden arches already a cautionary tale? Because in the end, the fight over McDonald's is a fight over influence, identity, and the power to shape the future. And it's only just